So, yo, we're back with a boy from London town with the hot news. Billy Body, what you got? Boom.
All right. What do we start
Wait,
with?
do you coach soccer? You have a board up in the back there with the soccer pitch. Are you like doing X's and O's, like teach your kid about how to manage a soccer team?
You know what? That is what I use it for now. But originally, it was supposed to be to do stuff on YouTube for lot betting and whatnot.
Like showing the strategies and stuff and the tactics?
Yeah, I did a couple of videos like that. I started for the Champions League final in, I think it's 2021. Mm-hmm. And that video was really good because I had the under 2.5 goals and it was 1-0. And it was talking about how Chelsea could win the game. But yeah, I haven't used it since. Like I had it put up there to do that, but I haven't used it since.
Right. Interesting. What do you got for wrestling news this week?
All right, there's quite a lot of stuff actually. Or quite a lot of decent stuff. So first thing I'll run through is I'll do the smaller stuff first, and I'll get bigger. So Becky Lynch is going to be. Have you seen that she's going to be in Young Rock? She's going to be playing Cyndi Lauper.
No, I
did read that.
Yeah. So the only reason I mention this is because it was my story a while ago where I said that The Rock has been putting Becky Lynch out. He got assigned to William Morris, and then Bianca Belair subsequently got signed to William Morris off the back of Becky Lynch's recommendation that she had star quality and that she was a person that was worth taking on. So The Rock, obviously, it's a weird one because he's still under William Morris with them lot, but he also has his own company, $7, which is called that because when he got sacked from Canadian football, he had $7 in his pocket. Right. So yeah, we're starting to see these jobs coming in for Becky. But the first place you heard about the fact that was even going to happen was here. I don't think there's enough. You get these idiots on YouTube saying, but no, you don't get enough people coming on and saying, "Oh, this is right," and that's right.
But here's the problem, Billy. Is that these people don't. The other journalists don't follow us. It's like we have to, if we're heard, we're heard by our fans. But it's like and the funniest thing is we can post when they post a story. It's like, well, Billy got this. We said this a month ago. But like the month ago when you say it, it's like they're just ignoring it.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw Raj with his story about CM Punk. They're trying to negotiate his release. His
right.
buyout.
You talked about that right away.
I can't even remember when that was. So
right, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll move on to that as it's organically come up. It wasn't my next story, but we'll talk about it. So the WWE are actually interested in Punk.
I find that hard to believe.
I know you do, but I know that it's true, and you don't. So here's what's happened. I can read this straight from my Patreon, or I can just sort of dig out the highlights.
Cliff notes.
Yeah. All right. So I mean, the full story's on Patreon. Me and Cav are going to go back and forth about it on the Wrestling Informer and see how this could pan out creatively and whatnot. But yeah, so. For Triple H to be interested in Punk is very strange because when the whole thing went off with him leaving, one of the things that he said on his way out was that he didn't want to work with Triple H. So whereas you have all of these people that are going to come in and they're Triple H guys and they have a lot more chance of being hired under Triple H and then not for Vince. This is one of the only people who you would think on paper has a better chance of being hired by Vince, but that's not true. So the reason things have changed so dramatically is because during talks that Triple H had with people in terms of reaching out on people's availability and guys calling Triple H to see what the likelihood of them being brought back was if they can get their releases from AEW, talking about Malachi Black, Miro, all these kind of people that want to leave, Andrade, who has a glowing reference from Undertaker, by the way. So one of the people, or two of the people that he spoke to was the Revival, or FTR, which is what they're now known as. FTR pretty much put the entire blame of the situation onto AEW. So some of the things that they've turned around and said is that CM Punk is blameless in the AEW situation, according to FTR. According to them, he was attempting to be a positive and helpful influence in the locker room, and the locker room lacks organization, direction, and leaders. They've told Triple H that his intentions were good and he was continually undermined and his advice was frequently ignored and often ridiculed. It also said that Punk was very much against the dangerous work style, the gaming room that was set up by the Bucks on TV, and alcohol and drug-fueled parties almost weekly at the television hotel. So this is what Triple H says. Triple H is not a drug guy, not a drinking guy, not a game room in the TV taping guy. So everything that he says resonates with Triple H. So this is probably why this is happening.
Okay, I'm gonna get some questions here. All right, number one.
Well, I might not be able to answer them, so I only have.
No, you should be able to answer because with this stuff that you've reported here.
Okay.
So the reason I've always said, and me and Joe have argued about this on the show, and I've been steadfast that Punk is not coming back because of why he didn't sign with WWE recently. You said that when they brought him into that Fox show, okay, that the whole intention was the Fox people basically were going to try and get him integrated back into the company. Right. And they said, okay, we're going to do, remember the whole thing, that story?
Vince
let me
was,
finish. Let
me
finish. Mm-hmm. The gist of it was, remember when they told the Fox people, look, we just don't want him in the locker room. So what has changed from that? Because basically he goes to another locker room. The reason they wouldn't let him in the WWE locker room is because they thought he was a toxic type guy. They just didn't want him around. He goes over he blows up the other locker room, and now you're telling me they want to bring him back and put him back into this locker room that they originally said we don't want him around? I find that hard. That's my question.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Vince is gone. Yeah, Vince is gone.
Yeah, right. So that first of all, Vince is gone. Second of all, when that was all going on, Fox turned around and said that they would cover the salary that Punk wanted. So in terms of what WWE valued him at, which is the same as an Edge or someone along those lines, Fox offered to cover the difference between AEW and WWE, where they were far out, which was about $2.75 million, something along those lines. And it was determined that they just said, look, like he's too much of a negative influence in the locker room, and it will be even worse if people find out that he's getting $5 million, which is $1 million more than the guarantee that Roman Reigns gets. So
I get that. So then what they're saying is that the way the FTR explained to these guys is that, look, Punk's not the toxic guy. These other indie guys are the toxic guys here in AEW. What Punk is trying to do is like an actually thing, like, trying to be like a company WWE guy and try to do things the WWE way, and was getting flack from these guys trying to do things the WWE way, but then they want to do the indie way, and that's the way the story is being sold to them now.
Well,
is that accurate?
I want to talk to Konnan, because he's been in that locker room. And do any of these things that CM Punk hates resonate with you in terms of people not listening, messing around backstage, partying, drugs, alcohol, gaming room, things like unprofessionalism, things of that nature?
Oh yeah, there's a very immature, very unprofessional high school attitude that's very prevalent, and so I just think that, I don't know if it was Punk, if it's Jericho, if it's Moxley, if it's Danielson, if it's Arn Anderson, if it's who it is, but they just need to, get rid of some people, and the people that want to stay, read them the ground rules. This is how we do our business,
Let me ask you a question. When you were there, Konnan, do people come up would guys come to you and after the match say, hey, did you watch my match?
Just guys I know.
Right. But nobody else wants to listen, any advice, nothing.
And I don't really give it out either. So
Right. Well, I don't think you really know anything, to be honest with you. So.
No. Oh,
What else you got? Yeah. So okay. Then I'm open. My guess is Punk will not be back because maybe enough of the guys in the WWE locker room that have issues, because Jericho had an issue with him. Jericho was not a fan of Punk, but before he came in, I know there was probably some. I just wonder if they're going to bring Punk back.
I just think let
me just real quick. The amount of money he's going to be making would be problematic to me in that locker room. I think. These guys that have been grinding and getting out, and then all of a sudden you find out this guy's coming in that blew up the AEW locker room. He's getting X million dollars a year. I think that could create a possible toxic atmosphere in that locker room.
I think the money will be significantly reduced from what his asking price was for the original comeback, because obviously there was a big demand behind it. I think the contract will be part-time because Punk's picked up injuries. I think Punk will agree to that he doesn't need to do a full-time schedule. The whole AEW thing was to make a point in terms of I can carry a company in my back, which means he needs to be there the whole time. This is just coming back to earn to have a light work schedule, maybe earn like $2 or $3 million a year, and to main event WrestleMania next year. Like not this one coming up. Not this one coming up. The one after that. In Philadelphia,
because he'd be injured. Yeah, and plus contract being what it is, maybe he won't get what he wants. But I'd imagine his merch sales would offset anything. That because his merch will sell like crazy, just like it did at AEW.
Look, the bottom line is this: the AEW's biggest episode of Rampage was with CM Punk. So AEW's biggest ratings are with CM Punk. AEW's biggest pay-per-view buys, the top 5, all have CM Punk in it. So you can't turn around and say that it doesn't make any kind of financial difference.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to say, Billy, is so when Glenn brings up, well, they didn't want him when he was a Fox commentator, but he didn't pop that number that he did with AEW either by then. So he's popped that number. He's had a couple $1 million gates. He's been proven to be, a merchandise seller. And just for the fact of getting one over on AEW, just for the fact of CM Punk coming back home, and I'm sure that Hunter's going to tell him, look, that you pulled in AEW, that ain't working here. You know that. You can't go into business for yourself. You work this many times a year, probably gave him a really light Goldberg schedule, make this much money, pick up that Saudi money, whatever they're going to give him, a little candy they're going to give him to come back, and he may just do it.
Well,
although if he good.
Well, the one thing you just can't deny, it's kind of like Trump supporters. He has built-in loyal fan base. That is just you can't pry them away from him. Like you're looking at a significant number of fans that if you bring him back, a decent amount are going to watch a show. You know what I'm saying? So that I think he does have that. So
yeah,
I said before that maybe Saudi Arabia and their deal with WWE has shown that they can ask for certain guys or whatever, but. If Punk goes and does a Saudi Arabia show, it's very hypocritical because he's made multiple comments about the Saudi Arabia deal being blood money and blah, blah, blah and all that. So that would be very hypocritical of him if he did perform in Saudi Arabia.
What else you got, Billy?
Would you stop supporting him, Joe?
If you went, not really. No.
I still ultimately feel that they're throwing away money because if it had not been Tony, if this had been Vince, and CM Punk did. First of all, CM Punk would never have been able to do that at a press conference. But when you're looking at what did happen, there's money signs there for Punk to work against the Bucks and Omega and to somehow resolve this situation.
Absolutely.
And that press conference, whether you liked it or not, or whether you agree with it or not, it was the best promo of the year. It was the biggest. It was the biggest thing that anybody could have done to draw money
on that show. It is for sure. It's the only thing. But it's the only promo I can remember. Like how many promos you remember?
Well, MJF.
It's like that was the only one, right?
That one and MJF.
Yeah, MJF, right. I mean, him and MJF, right? MJF is good, but like other than that, it's like that's the only thing of note that's come in promo wise on that show.
And that was an ace in the hole for Punk too, because if you think about it, during his year, he worked with MJF. They already did Bryan and Omega. So Punk versus Omega was that match that was left, that dream match.
Oh yeah, and let's revisit the fact that while all the dirt sheets were splitting out, I came on this show and told you that MJF had renegotiated his contract, had creative control, and would be turning babyface about 4 months ago. And look what's happening on TV. And this was not being reported by anybody else. They were all buying into these problems and things that were happening, and everybody was worked except us lot here.
So Billy, when MJF still says things in public interviews like, what is it, 2024 when his deal's supposed to be up? Yeah, I'm out of here. I might do this. I might do that. I heard that he secretly did cut a new deal that's actually going to take him past 2024. Now when he says that, it's just to further his character. Like he's actually signed long term, right? Or is that not the case?
No, he's got so they're doing what he wants to do, and they have an extension option on there for another trigger. But there's no way he won't. If this company might not even be around in 2024.
Well, what else you got?
I got a big story, but I'm going to keep it for next week because I think that's a lot of stuff. And this next one, I think this is out on my Patreon page, but it's big, and I want to spend time talking about it. I actually already sent it to Joe and Disco. I'll send it to Konnan as well.
Did you send it on the WhatsApp?
I sent it to you as soon as I got it, about 4 or 5 days ago, about The Rock and WrestleMania.
Oh, yeah. So the alternate plans. Yeah, we'll talk about that next week. We'll talk about
that next week because because there's one particular part of it where I mentioned that if Roman wins, does the mystique of The Rock, of Black Adam and everything else, does that disintegrate with a wrestling loss? Like, I want to get into that next week because that seems to be a problem for certain people. So,
all right. So what's your last story here?
No, that was the one I'm holding back. But the big one will be the TV. The big one there is a TV deal. Like I'm very, very sure that's where they're going.
Okay, so let's put it out here right now. In here, Konnan, everybody's opinion. I say Punk ends up not going back to WWE. What would you guys guess be?
I think he does.
Yeah, I think he's back next summer.
What about you, Billy?
Yeah, I think from what I understand, it's too. There's too. I got it off too many people now. I think it will happen.
I think WWE, what they've been very good at, and you will agree, Billy, is anybody that can make money, they're willing to make money with, and he's one of the few guys that they can make money with for sure. Right. Why wouldn't they go after?
But because my thing is like I've never been wrong on the show before, and I'd hate that to be my first time.
Yeah, well, there's a Super Bowl bet you never.
Well, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing that I'm going to go to for this. So Vince McMahon had zero relationship with Bruno Sammartino and the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah, right. But Hunter went out and connected.
And he went out and fixed those relationships. So in this situation, I believe you're looking at a part-time deal, WrestleMania main event, merchandising, Legends deal, Hall of Fame, future commentator, even if he wants to be. I believe that outside of a wrestling capacity, that he could be aligned with the company for an extra decade afterwards. So he could wrestle for 3 and still be there for 10 more, doing bits and pieces and collecting $500,000 a year for nothing.
So he's not gonna be in any more UFC fights?
Yo, what up? This is Konnan, and I host Keeping It 100, my co-host, Disco Inferno, unfortunately.
Well, I'd say you're my co-host.
Listen, every Thursday here on Spreaker, we talk pro wrestling, sports, movies, music, TV, pop culture, and some politics. It's everything the rest of the pro wrestling podcasts are not.
Tune in to hear myself, the superior one, educate and inform.
Tune in to hear me bury Disco.
That's very disrespectful.
Join us every Thursday on Spreaker and keep it 100. Boom!